Yo, what up? This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Today, I got a special guest in the building. Man, we go back like four flats on a Cadillac. Um, one of the first people I met in high school, because I didn't grow up in Mo City. I went to school in League City, kind of like down in Clear Lake and shit. And when I got to Elkins, you and your brother were two of the first people. I was gonna say one of the first people I met, but it's two of y'all. So two of the first people I met. But man, and we still connected on this journey. It's definitely been us on our own journeys and shit. But we reconnected in December, man. And like y'all just poured into me. And I think that's also partially why I'm here, So I would love if you just introduce yourself to the people.
Oh man, I'm glad to be here, man. I'm so Brother J on all platforms. I've been at what I'm doing. Some people say is hoodoo. Some people just say is just regular stuff that Black people been doing. The ancestors been doing forever. I'm also in Omo Awo and ATR Isheshe. Or some people call it Ifa. Depending or Lukumi, or if they walk that path instead, that's a sister to Isheshe. But it's an African traditional religion. For those that don't know, that are a part of that religion and seeing this podcast, I'm Omo Eshu, which means that I'm a child of Eshu in that tradition, and he's like the divine messenger. So it's interesting to be in this seat that I've been planted planted on, and being actually a part of someone that's a divine messenger in that pantheon. You know what I mean? And I guide meditations, but I don't call myself a meditation guide. I'm a divine rememberer. You know what I mean? So I help people remember. That's all I do. Help you remember where you are, remember where you're going, and remember how to be good to yourself in that journey. You know what I mean? So nothing too special or title related or anything like that to throw out. I could say yes, I'm a Reiki master and all of that, but I'm just a divine remember. I just help you to remember the best in you. That's all I do, man.
That's what's up, man. And that's real shit. I'm definitely gonna co-sign you on that because like I said, when we saw each other, I was talking about quitting my job, and y'all were definitely, encouraging me like to do it, and talking about having that conversation when I do it, and here we are today. So I appreciate that.
Oh man, I'm just glad to be a part of the journey, bro. Like we go, like you say, we go way back, man, and it's a blessing to still have a friend like that from over all that time, man. All of our lives have changed tremendously. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
man.
I
Yeah.
remember, I remember sitting out there, and it's interesting to even think about that right now because I remember sitting out there with y'all, and we would talk. We would just talk about music forever and a day, and
Yeah.
not even realize that the things we were sharing with each other was showing where we were healing at in certain spaces at that time too. You know what I mean? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful thing, man. It's beautiful. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we gonna get into it. How are you feeling today though? Like how are just checking in. How you feeling today?
Today, man, man. All I can say is, you know what I mean. It's interesting that this caught me on a day of the days because when we first scheduled this, I was like at the height of everything going on. I had just done a panel and everything, and to be speaking to you today, and it's like I'm in a tower moment. You know what I mean? It's just like, okay, let me recenter myself, let me regather myself, let me remind myself why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So I don't fall into the old cycle of repeating bad habits or walking backwards or looking over my shoulder at negative things and trying to make that feel like that's what's going on today because it's not. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Man, if I can sum that up like that, that's how I would do it, bro.
Nah, that's perfect. That's perfect,
But how
man.
about you?
I appreciate you sharing that with us. Man, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I haven't been drinking or smoking like since the month started. And I mean it's not that much time, but it is enough
Yeah,
time. You
yeah.
know what I mean? And I found in the past, because I usually go through these waves of, I'm gonna drink, I'm not gonna drink, I'm gonna smoke weed, I'm not gonna smoke weed. And there's that period of agitation um where your body is adjusting. And this is the first time I don't feel it. It's the first time I don't feel it. And I've been running on a natural high that is really, oh my gosh, it's different, man. Like I can't even explain it. I don't know if you're too familiar with like uh the ballroom or voguing culture, but I've inserted myself in that space. And I would find a lot of times when I would go into these competitions that I would drink just to get myself loose, just to kind of loosen
Oh,
up. And Friday was my first time doing it completely sober, no drinking, no nothing. And I felt in the flow, man, in the same flow of playing basketball, in the same flow of, making music, the same flow of painting, teaching a class when I know what the fuck I'm doing and I'm sharp on my shit. It was that same feeling. And man, I'm just feeling so appreciative to be where I am today and having the tools that I have. Cause man, like I'm starting to see that everybody has not done the work that I've done a lot. And in my close spaces, you know what I mean? And I'm recognizing like I just got to keep pushing. I got to keep pushing. That's the best thing I could do, is to lead by
mm.
example, rather than telling somebody what they should or shouldn't do or how to do it, is really just being an example with my own life. And I feel good, man. I feel really good. That's the best I could sum it up today.
Oh man, I love that, man. I love that. Can we bounce back to the smoking thing for just 1 second? I wanna
Yeah,
show
for
you
sure.
something. And a lot of people don't realize this. When we ingest those, we forget that that's medicine. We forget that that's a plant spirit that we're ingesting. We're ingesting a
For
whole
sure.
different spirit into our bodies, and we're treating it like it's trash, like it's just whatever. You know what I mean? And we don't respect it. So when we, that's, I honestly think that's what creates the paranoia. That's what creates the anxiety, because you're not using it to actually be, to use it for medicinal practices. You're just using it just to say that you used it, and you forget that that's an actual spirit that you're taking in. So you're attaching a spirit to yourself that you don't know, have a relationship with. You don't really know how to work with it. You just know that somebody before you started it told you it was the cool thing to do, and you watched them do it, and now it's taken over you, and now you want it because you like what it does to you, but you don't realize that it's opening yourself up for portals for anything to touch you, for anything to come into the space to not be good if you're not in the correct space while you're ingesting it. You know what I mean? And but the twist to that is the fact that a lot of people do it when they're creating art. You know what I mean? So that's one of the major ways that you can honor that spirit, is using it correctly to put you in the center of
Yeah.
focus and understanding that your mind can be open to the beauty of your craft, the beauty of your art. And man, and being without it and not having the anxiety of that and still getting that shows you that you used it the correct way, to where it didn't have a
Yeah,
hold on
man.
you for you to automatically run back to it, because you don't have that anymore. That shows you that what you have right now has always been into you, and the only thing that did was release it. That's it.
You absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And it's funny you say that because man, I've gone through phases with it. I mean, I've been smoking weed since I was 20 years old. And, at first it started as fun, it was something fun to do. And once I started using it while I was creating, I think that's the thing that people need to recognize too, is you can use it while you create, but it's not what's making you
Right.
creative.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think there were points in my life where I felt like this is what's making me creative. And once I realized this is not it, I had to I've been developing a relationship with this for a long time. And when I go through my waves, like I said, I go through waves of, I think it's also that habit of just picking something up, you know, that hand motion of just moving it to your mouth, moving it to your face, that we get addicted to. And, like you said, abusing it. And I will say, cause I've talked about using another form of medicine on this podcast, which is
Ah,
mushrooms. And I think I was taught properly with them. That's why I don't use them unless I'm
right.
called to do them. And I'll tell you, when I've taken breaks from marijuana, I do feel that spiritual aspect of it. I do feel like, if I go for a walk outside, I may smoke a joint before and go for a walk, and it's an enlightening walk, and I don't know, I'm just getting to that place where it's just, I have everything I need inside of me, that I don't have to go search for nothing. Like, the last time I did take a spiritual trip, I told myself, I'm not looking for anything. And that was the most beautiful feeling to have, is to know that I have every single thing that I need inside of me. And man, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And no judgment to anybody that does
Yeah,
use it in whatever way. We all
for
have our
sure.
own journeys with it and figuring it out. But I'm so appreciative of where I
For
got
sure.
with it.
And I love that you just said that, because that's a great reminder to anyone to know that your journey is not my journey. You know what I mean? You don't have to be where I am, or where you are with it. Um, Only thing that I would say is just to take your time and honor yourself. Give yourself grace. In every single moment, give yourself grace. Don't be hard on yourself out here. It's hard enough without you adding extra to it. Just give yourself grace. It doesn't even matter like where you are. It doesn't matter. Just give yourself grace. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I didn't know we was gonna go here with this episode, but I appreciate you sharing that, because within this journey of, sobriety, there have been parts, and when I say sobriety, I'm not saying I'm just out here like
Oh,
I'm never gonna do it again. I don't know what I'm gonna do again. I'm day to day. But you know, there were points where I judged myself for my consumption, and to me, it's like, well, why do it if you're gonna judge yourself?
mm,
And also, like, now being in the space of, like I said, I'm in the space of, hey, I'm not doing this for 90 days, but if it does happen within those 90 days, I'm not gonna punish myself for it. You know?
oh man, I'm so glad you said that, because that's also where I am with it. I told myself the last time I
Yeah,
ingested, even with mushrooms, um, I told myself, because I love mushrooms, and I can journey without it. I don't really need it to journey, but
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
it's a great doorway into it. Um, I told myself, I'm not, until I sit and learn about the spiritual aspect of each, in a way that it relates to my path. I'm going to step back, and I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna work through my things.
yeah,
That way, the next time I'm not working through something that's traumatizing while I'm on mushrooms, because it can get dark. So
of course, yeah, yeah. It's gonna take you where you need to
man,
go.
that's it. And I told myself, I said, I want to make sure every time I do it, that it's not in a place where I'm sad after. You know what I mean? I want to
Yeah,
make sure that I'm in full gratitude, no matter what show up, no matter how it look. I'm in full gratitude. I'm open to learning. I'm not operating in ego saying that it should have went this way or it should have looked that way. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm now in a place to where I can say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm open. Show me. I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to learn." You know?
And that, I appreciate you sharing that, because that, like I said, I was introduced to them as
Mm.
being like teachers. The first ones I had ever tried were called golden teachers. And it was to receive whatever lesson you get. And when you trip for the first time, it could definitely take you places where, like, you look for it the next time, like, oh, I want to see colors, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's not about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all that stuff does feel good, but at the same time, that's not what you do it for. And I find, not even just with this, I think one thing that they showed me is that it's not the actual mushroom or the weed or the liquor, or not, and it just
Hmm.
doesn't have to be those things. It's not the
Hmm.
shoes or whatever your vice is. It's all the other elements that are put into that. It's how you feel, the people you're around, the
Yes.
music you listen
Yes.
to, the space you in, you know, the
Yes.
time of day. It's a lot of elements that go into that
Absolutely.
feeling. And when I recognize that, like you said, whether it take you on, and I will say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I've never had a bad trip. And I say that because even when it's taking me to a couple of places where I had to face
Hmm.
some shit and deal with some shit, it was done in such a beautiful way that I still was able to receive a lesson from it. There was one time I was on the beach, and that's how you can tell I'm self-employed now, because I'm talking about mushrooms like a motherfucker. But yeah, man, I was on the beach, and I'm telling you, every traumatic experience that I could think of came
Mm.
up within this trip. And that was from, like, as early as, like, hanging out with people in school and being shot at with these people, to shit that I experienced in adulthood. And it put all those things in front of me, and something in me made me reflect on them and laugh at them. And being able to laugh at my
Mm.
own pain, something about it just brought me some
Man.
peace. And yeah, man, I, I
Oh
I
man,
can't
there's
even
there's
explain it.
actually nothing to correct about that, man. That's right and exact. And I say when I say traumatizing, I don't want to say my second. I it was like I would say it was about my fourth time looking back, and
Yeah.
it was I actually partnered with somebody. They had already done it as well, so I'm thinking it's going to be a good time. We're just going to journey, and they went. It's hard. It's hard to put it into words. It's almost like schizophrenia. They,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
they were like climbing the walls and jumping everywhere, and I had to, while I was under, I still had to snap out of it. Now I'm telling you, I'm watching the walls breathe, I'm watching
Wow.
things move, I'm and I'm having
Yeah.
to cover them at the same time because I also do spiritual protection. So I had to cover them while I was under. That's
Yeah.
actually what got me into spiritual protection more, was because of what I'm already a seer, so I can see the entities and everything that's going on around them, and I'm watching them go into a dark place, and I'm having to take them and like put them in the shower and turn the water on cold and sit there with them
Wow.
and guide them down to help them remember that they're okay, and the whole time I'm under. So it gave me
Yeah.
that perspective that actually kind of hurt me for a second. So I kind of backed up on it. That's one of the reasons why I backed up on it, because I'm trying to heal from that space, because it turned my beautiful experience into me trying to now care for them in a whole different way than
Mm.
just being a guide. I'm having to be a psychiatrist at the same time. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
having to
Wow.
call back, and it's interesting. I hope I'm not saying anything too wild for you, because I also do conjuring, and I
No, not at
do
all.
act and speak with spirits a lot. So I'm seeing spirits talk to me about this person, and unfortunately this person wasn't um who they said they were in the beginning, and
Mm.
and spirit told
Mm.
on them to me, and I'm having to try to find something good, even though this person told me a lie about the whole system and what they had experienced, and it wasn't true. And I'm yeah, and
Um,
so they weren't actually as experienced as they said they were, and now I'm dealing with
yeah.
that at the same time. You know what I mean? So
Damn.
I mean, going back to just to bring it full circle, it's important for us to see those things as with gratitude as well. You know what I mean? Just how you said that you were speaking
Yeah.
how you were speaking in a way like you haven't had a bad experience. That's so important when you're journeying, to see the good, no matter how anything show up, to see all of those things as a teachable moment. Like you said, forget the colors, forget the little sprites or whatever that show up and all of that, but to see things as a teachable moment about your surroundings and who's who in that space. You know what I mean? Because that's super important. And I'm sorry for going off to the side, but man,
Nah, you good.
yeah,
You good. Yeah, you good. Something I wanted to ask you, man, was how did you get on your spiritual journey? And I asked that because, just being from where we from, like it ain't very many
yeah,
people that's on the
yeah.
shit that we on. You know what I'm saying? Cause I definitely wanna touch on some of the things that you do, but I
Oh
really
man,
wanted to start there
one of the
first.
major things for me, oh, and I've never told this to anyone in the public space, so forgive me if I get a little worked up. This is the first time I'm saying this out
Nah,
loud
you good.
to
You
someone else
good.
that's not my twin brother. Okay, um, I was
Wow.
8. I was in church. I closed my eyes, and something whispered in my ear to open my eyes just a little bit, and I saw things that were not human running around throughout the church, and some of them had wings and everything, like big white wings, and gold around them, and they were just running around. They were running throughout people. They were running and showing themselves, trying to show themselves to people that they thought that could see them. And I had that was my first time realizing that I was a seer, because they came to me, and it was kind of like you know how a puppy tilts his head sideways, kind of. That's what they did to me, like, and they were like, "Oh, you can really see me." Like they spoke in a language that was not what I
Bro,
like.
you gave me
I
chills
wasn't
just now.
accustomed to the language that they were speaking. They were speaking in an entirely different language, and when it hit me, I felt that language register to me in a way that I've never felt anything before. And it's almost like I felt a jolt in my body, like they activated something, because I literally felt I was standing still, but it literally felt like I was turning around in circles at warp speed. Like everything was running in a straight line. You know what I mean? And going from
Wow.
that, I sat there for a second, um, and then I was like, okay, I'm tripping. I'm tripping. I'm tripping. I know I'm tripping. So let me go back to praying with everybody else because you know it was in that moment where the organ was going, and you know what I mean, and everybody was about to get hype, you know. So it was moving into that moment. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'll just jump up and down. I don't really know what I'm doing. Let me just jump up and down like everybody else, and hopefully I can forget what I've seen. That yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So and
Wow.
it's interesting to get into that part because right not long after that I was working. I was off and on with my grandmother, and we lived in Sunnyside. Um, and I was just going through, helping my grandmother out. She had a little garden on the corner lot, and she would show me little things that was like, what you would now call rude work and whatnot. She would show me little things like that, but
Yeah.
it was still on the basis of um, adding the Bible and prayers and psalms and stuff to it. So it would. She had this little thing that she would show me how to do. She would say, "Okay, now go outside and cut something off for me," and not realizing that I'm learning a whole different path that go along with what I thought was
Wow.
Christianity. She threw a whole different thing in it, and she never showed anybody else. It was just me and her doing this stuff, just me and her. And after that,
Wow.
it was just bouncing back and forth, and then till I realized um, that this is my calling. Like it wasn't just sitting at the altar and hoping that one day I become a pastor or something like that. Or that wasn't for me. I was told that I was supposed to be a pastor, but for my path, man, it in a way I'm moving into priesthood, but it's in a different way. You know what I mean? And it's to have that be my start. That's my start, man. That was my start. A little kid as a seer. Yeah, yeah.
That's interesting you say that because people used to tell me when I was younger, like, "Oh, you're gonna be a preacher, you're gonna be a pastor," and I used to be like, "Fuck no," you know, hell nah. And I realize how much power
hmm
my words do have, and I still don't like that
hmm
title. I don't like that title, but I understand what people were
In
saying
a
when they were
way, when
saying
you say
it.
that, it's to remind you that even though without the title being in it, you're still bringing people to their truth. You're still
For sure.
reminding
For
people to be
sure.
in alignment with their higher self. So
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Of course. Of
in a
course.
way, you're not necessarily at the temple because you are the temple. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Man,
when they
man.
come to you, they are indeed in service, bro. You know what I mean? Yes, sir.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Something you mentioned that you are, and kind of tying everything that we were talking about with like the mushrooms and stuff. You said that you are a Reiki master, and I have done Reiki before, and I can tell you in my Reiki experiences, it has been just as enlightening, if not more, than actually digesting shrooms. But I would love to know,
Oof,
what's your experience with
it's pretty
Reiki?
on par, bro. That's pretty on par. Like my experience was very much so like transformative. Like I was in a place going through this, man. I wasn't even aware of what it was before getting into it. I had a reading where somebody told me
Yeah,
that that's a part of my path because I have healing hands or golden hands. And something said to me, they said healing healing hands in Reiki is the same thing as laying of the hands when somebody pray for you. So it's not necessarily disconnected from what they do to Reiki. it's all connected. It's all together. So learning Reiki, all I did was learn a different terminology for what I was already doing. You know what I mean? So it was, for me, it
Yeah.
opened up a way to say, hey, let me show you how to channel those energies that you're already working with, to make sure that they're benevolent, to calling in these energies in a way that you may not always have the words for, but you know the intention for. You know what I mean? And man, phew,
Yeah.
it's been on ever since.
That's what's up, man. Are people receptive to your practices being in, because I know you moved out of
Yeah.
Texas, out of Houston, and then you moved back to Houston, but
Uh,
what is the response like
in
to your practices in
Houston, to be
Houston?
honest, it's been interesting, man. I didn't I didn't have I don't let me not use that word. I was I was finding out that there was not much of an us in the tradition out here. You know what I mean? Um, so there are a lot
Yeah.
of Spanish people in the tradition, and trying to find a sense of community out here, and running into people that tried to make me feel weird for what I believe in. And it's interesting because it's always been full circle. I've had people like make fun of me for like talking to spirits, or family members like, oh, you feel special because so and so came to you and not to us. And a lot of that was just projection, but at the same time it made me
Yeah.
realize like I'm I should be okay with how any of that show up, because my tribe is here. My tribe doesn't have to be
Yeah.
exactly in Houston. Not everybody, but there's definitely somebody here for me. You know what I mean? And my purpose is here. That's why I'm here. When it's no longer my purpose here, then I'll be somewhere else. Just like when I was in New York, and just like when I was in Seattle. When my purpose is up here, I'll be led to go
Yeah.
somewhere else. And so while everybody
Yeah.
around me at this time, not too many people are receptive. I'm lucky to have a divine partner that honor what I believe in and respect it, even though we're not on the same path. She still respect it, and that's, to me, that's more than I could even ask for. To be honest, as I can go outside,
Yeah.
sure, and it could be 100 people out there doing the same thing I do, but not really respect my path in it. But to have a respect from somebody that is dear to you, man, that's everything, man. That's everything to me. Yeah.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Um, Man, I want to get into, because this is something I know absolutely nothing about, but I've seen you like mention, but like tarot, what, or like tarot and bone reading, like what is that
I'm sorry, it
exactly?
skipped on my end. Can you repeat that?
My bad. I said, what is tarot and what is bone reading? Like
Ah,
I've never
okay.
heard of before. Well, I mean, I've heard of tarot, but I'm not familiar with bone
Oh,
reading.
tarot, tarot and bone reading, they're just reminders of your connection with benevolent spirit and what's already there, and sometimes malevolent spirit, but it depends on your path. And they're just great reminders of what you already know. Really, they're just confirmers. They're just confirming something you already feel in your intuition. You know what I mean? That's if you sit with yourself enough. Let me just say that. That's if you sit with yourself enough, you can hear things without even using those tools that those tools are going to give you anyway. So they're just a system of tools
Yeah,
to help you understand your intuition, or to guide your intuition in a direction. Um, and that's it. Because a lot of people don't even read those things the same. I can like I've been reading tarot for
yeah,
over a decade, and when I tell you, I meet people all the time that use an entirely different system. Some people have created their own systems. Like me, I have my own spreads, which is my own way of reading, that I created. Yes, I have been taught by others, but the things that I found in those have worked for me. Um, for instance, um, for instance, we'll
Yeah.
say um, like a Three of Cups. Some people read it as you're about to be the life of the party. I might read it as you're reaching a new level in spiritual development to where you'll be praised for what you know. You know what I mean? Like it just depends on what the reading is about. Um, it depends on if it's relationships, if it's career, if it's general. Um, it depends on it depends on basically the service that you're wanting and what each card relates to. Um, and then there are very different decks because you also have oracle decks that are more detailed. Um, well, they're more, in some ways they can be more detailed. In some ways they can be super general. Let me say that too. That way I don't create any way of confusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with cards, it's always left up to the subject and the context of what you're reading. Whereas bone readings is
Yeah.
bones and curios, so each thing means something different and direct. It's a little bit more detailed based than reading from a card, because you develop a relationship with each singular piece. A lot of those pieces are living pieces, meaning that they actually have DNA from something else in them, like they're living pieces. Um,
Oh wow.
and you might say like you might have a piece of snake vertebrae or something like that, or you might have a jaw from a raccoon or something like that, or you might have a piece
Yeah.
of tortoise shell or something, or you might have something like a little charm or something, or a pair of dice. For instance, one of the things I like to include in my set, I have a little trinket of my aunt, and she's justice, balance, truth. You know what I mean, and reminding you to be on your path, to reminding you to be true to yourself, reminding you to hold integrity, reminding you in that particular scenario to be on the right side of things and not to be a person that operates in a way where you can't sleep at night. You know what I mean? And reminding you to
Yeah.
be, for your heart to be light as a feather, to operate in your heart space so that you can be true to yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see the difference between that versus when I mentioned the Three of Cups, how detailed that got, and that trinket, because those pieces have a direct
Yeah.
connection to whoever's reading from them. Whereas cards, I can pick up personally, I can pick
Mm.
up somebody else's card and read from those too. But you can't do the same with a bone reader set. You can't, because each singular piece
Right.
is found somewhere, whether it be in nature, whether it be a gift from someone else. It's all a direct connection to you as a person, not necessarily as a spiritual person, but just you as a person
Yeah.
in general. Those pieces have something of significance to you.
Wow. Man, something that just popped in my mind because I think a lot of people, in my experience, I've met people that are
Mhm.
skeptical and don't believe any of it at all. And then I meet people that are so deep in it that like, if they get their cards read, every single thing, every detail they believe in and take it to heart. What advice would you give to somebody that's just I guess open to the idea of, trying something different spiritually? Like what advice would you give to, cuz like I said, I've never had my cards read because my grandmother definitely saw it as like witchery or like, that ain't from God. And it's like, you know, but I know people that have done it and tell me that it's giving them some guidance. And I'm curious, like for somebody like me that's never done it, like
Um,
what advice would you
be
give?
be open. Don't don't try to make it something automatically. 10 to 1, you get the right reader, it is going to mean something automatically. But if it doesn't resonate, still sit with the information anyway, because a lot of the times they may not be meant for you right there in that moment. It may be 2 days from now, 10 days from now, a year from now. Just make notes. Keep your notes with you. Revisit them every now and then, so that you can go back and see, maybe even by the end of the year, if anything come back to you. Because just because it doesn't resonate in the moment doesn't mean that it's not going to happen for you. Kind of like a dream. You can have a prophetic dream and you think, oh, is this going to be something bad? And then 5 years later, you're like, oh, this is a deja vu moment. You know what I mean? Like that's the same way with reading. It
Yeah,
it can develop
yeah,
moments of deja vu down the line, or it can be instant. So just be open.
that's real. That's real. Where do you go for
Whew.
healing? You know,
I'm
being a
glad
healer,
you
where do you
asked me
go
that.
for healing?
I have people that I can reach out to that I like to say that are the healer's healer. They're elders. And shoot, I'm not ashamed to say, hey, I do therapy too, because therapy is important. You know what I mean? But I
That's real.
also,
Yeah,
being a person that does spiritual counseling, I also find other elder spiritual counselors that have been doing it for longer than I have, um, and seen way more than me. And I honestly sit at their feet like I would have my grandparents, to sit and learn from them and talk to them and get mentorship from them too.
my bad. We had some technical difficulties, but and actually that might be where we put that meditation. So that'll work out perfectly. But
Yes, man.
I wanted to talk to you about Black men's mental health and healing for us. And being that you are a healer, I wanted to know, what does that look like for you? Like, what do you see for us?
One of the major things we have to do is we have to recalibrate what black manhood is,
Mm,
and how that looks, and realizing, just like we as a people aren't a monolith, black manhood isn't monolithic either. I mean, it looks different for everybody. Because your needs as a man aren't the same as someone else's. You know what I mean? And you have to be okay with that, because you have to learn how to be okay within yourself. You know what I mean? And that's the first step, in recalibrating black manhood, is self love, and understanding that you should have worth too. You know,
yeah,
um, a lot of times we get so much at being solely just the executioner of things, that we forget that we need to take in things too. That we have needs, and we have places in this world that aren't just centered around what we can provide. Sometimes it's how we nurture too. Sometimes it's how we show up for our communities, um, in a way that doesn't say I'm tough all the time, but showing people that it's okay to feel, that we can feel some things other than anger too. You know what I mean? It brings us to a place to have some understanding that our path isn't linear, so we shouldn't always be looking for um, things that say we have this now, or we have that, or basically possessions in general, shouldn't be at the forefront. But operating out at your heart space is going to bring you into those things, but it's not going to be in a way all the time that causes stress, that causes anxiety, um, and ultimately cultivating purpose, to where you can be a pillar in your community, and not detriment to your community. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um,
The
black,
first thought that pops in my head, I'm sorry for cutting you off.
no worries.
Where do we get these tools from? Because, you know, I think one of the biggest ones that stood out to me that you mentioned was nurturing. And
Mm.
I just had this conversation recently with someone about my own father. And, you know, he didn't really know much about how to nurture me emotionally because he never had it. And he never was taught how to express himself. So, you know, for some of us that, I mean, and granted, I've gotten to a place in my own life to be able to do that, but like, how do we help each other get those tools?
Um, One of the major things I would say as far as learning nurturing, I would honestly say black women or royalty when it comes to nurturing. And that is the best place to start, is to get, even if it's just a friend that is a close friend or an elder black woman in the space to teach you, and honor you and show you how to love you. Because I think one of the best things about learning to nurture others is learning how to nurture yourself. So if you get someone that is familiar with that energy already to know how to nurture themselves and nurture others, that is the best way to learn nurturing. As an example, if you just look how they show up for each other, you know what I mean? Black men don't show up for each other like that in that capacity. You know what I mean? Like, they show up for each other. They are strong for each other. They are soft for each other. They listen for each other, to each other. They care for each other in a way that they can see themselves in the other person. You know what I mean? Like, they imagine, like, if you can imagine a scenario where you see them cross paths, it, you know, something that we do, we'd be like, yes, hair, okay, hair,
Right.
let's go,
Yeah.
let's go, Jordans, okay, Jordans, I see you, Jordans. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then it make you feel good because they acknowledge
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? And that's something about their energy as a whole that they have a masterful power over, is to make you feel special for something that's so little. That's so little.
And I think, oh man, and it feels complex in the sense of men and masculinity
Mm.
because I think about what you're saying, and I feel like a lot of times men don't give each other that just for internalized homophobia. But
Yeah.
then when I
Oh,
think
that's
of,
another thing. Oh man, we got to touch that. Okay. Okay.
yeah, but when I think of the queer community, a lot of men don't give it to each other because I don't know, you know, because I
Really?
think about that with, yeah, and I say that because I think about that with some people where like, you know, there's this thing of throwing shade sometimes where it's like
Mm.
I'm gonna give you a compliment, but I'm also give you like a backhanded compliment. Like I'm gonna throw a joke into this compliment as opposed to, and maybe it's the lack of vulnerability, like removing
Oh.
homophobia and all that.
Ooh.
Maybe it's just the lack of vulnerability, you know?
Ooh. Yeah. Oh. Oh man, that's heavy. That's heavy. The lack of vulnerability, and it's because a lot of us are afraid to be vulnerable. We're taught that vulnerability is weak. It is not a trait that a man should have. It shows that you're prey and not predator. You know what I mean? That's it. We do that to ourselves. Matter of fact, we're gonna go back. It's done to us
Yeah,
as kids. We're
yeah,
told not to feel this way, not to operate in this way because you're a boy, because you shouldn't be sad. Boys don't cry. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you're a big boy. What they say, you're a big boy. You're a big boy.
yeah,
You don't need to cry. What you crying for? Dry them tears.
yeah,
We're taught to be okay with only anger. You know what I mean? And we got to get to the fact that um, that sadness is okay and joy is okay. Joy that puts us in a spiritual space of understanding You know what I mean? That, and it's interesting. You know, I had to come to grips with how that looked for myself. Um, and one of the ways that I've recently reopened my eyes to vulnerability is watching it with my lady, watching P Valley with my lady, and
Yeah.
watching the hurt in the character, murder character, and watching Uncle Cliff nurture him out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it put me in the mind to say that it doesn't matter what your orientation is, that level of nurturing is needed for a man. I
Yeah.
mean,
Of course.
like, you to have people around you that care that dearly, to have friends that check in on you, not just when they want to dump on you, but to actually check on you to see how you are as a person, to see if you're okay, to see if you're eating, to see if you're drinking enough water, to hell, to see if you
Yeah.
to see if you're moisturized today. You know, because you
Yeah.
know, as your friend, I can't let you be out here ashy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So we have to get to that too. Like, that's, and
Yeah.
honestly, that's a thing. If you go back and look at the level of nurturing of that, Uncle Clifford is a feminine character. That's the embodiment of femininity. So
Yeah.
that is something that we have to learn, that divine balance, that in every person there's divine femininity and a divine masculinity together. And we have to tap into
Yeah.
each of those and not be afraid to, and not to be afraid of what it looks like, because the people that it affect in the best way, they aren't going to care that how it looks. They're only going to care about that it made them feel really special or feel really good in a moment where they needed
Yeah.
it the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I definitely understand that. Um, Shoot, I wanted to get into our next segment, which is called the 5 questions of freedom, sponsored by Feel Free to Feel Free. And we got some fun questions. We got some thought provoking questions. But the first one is Michael Watts of DJ Screw.
Oh, DJ Screw.
Okay, okay. Um, what does friendship? This second question. What does friendship mean to you?
Everything, man. Everything is it's divine connection that transcends space and time. Like, to me, a lot of the times our friends have walked with us in other lifetimes together. So you're meeting again for the first time, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. Um, what does community mean to you? That's our third question.
Ooh, community. You can't have community without unity, man. And that, within the essence of itself, community is the nurturing, the loving, the understanding in truth and in light, and togetherness. Um, it says it is a we, it is a big we and a little I. You know,
Yeah,
as I am intricate to the big we, and together we are all a part of one, and we're one with all. We're not without, we're never alone, but we are always in truth. And we're not going to necessarily berate the other for the truth, but honor the truth and love for others, even if it's different.
yeah. Fourth question is what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
To play more, to not to not take to heart the position you were put in, to grow up at a rate that you were made to grow up, but to understand that you are worthy just as you are, and you are divinely created. Nothing is wrong about you, your size, your clothes, nothing is wrong about you. Nothing. Love yourself, I love you, and I'm in the space now to reparent you to help you understand that you are worthy of being whole exactly as you are.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that. Our last question is, what is one reminder that you want to give to your future self?
Love is always free. You know what I mean? And I say that because that's one of my favorite quotes from Common. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and I say that because we got lost along the way with that, and we've turned love into a commodity. Um, but to remind my future self that love is everywhere, and it don't cost a dime. Matter of fact, let me rephrase that. It don't cost a dime to hug a tree. Nature is love. The frequency of earth is love. And as long as you are in nature, you are in love. That's it.
That's real, man. Shit, man. It's been good to have you
Oh,
on this
man.
show. Like, I really appreciate you coming on because, like I said, when I started this thing, you was one of the first people listening to it and hitting me up and just telling me how dope it was. And here we are today, with you being on here. So I really appreciate that, man. Where can the people find you?
I'm Soul Brother J on all platforms. That's brother with an A on all platforms. You know what I mean? I would say don't look me up on Facebook because I'm very inactive on Facebook. It's just for family. But find
Yeah,
me everywhere else as Soul Brother J.
that's what's up, man. Man, I appreciate you coming
Oh
on.
man, thank you for having me. If I could just give you your flowers before we close this thing out, I just want to give you your flowers, man. Um, because you're brilliant. You're brilliant, brother, for real, man.
I appreciate
In
that.
more ways than one. Like you've always been brilliant with music, but this is next level. This is otherworldly. This is reminding you of the awesomeness that it is your truth, bro. And I thank you for your existence in this space and time, bro. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate that for real.
Yes, sir.
Man, thank y'all for listening. This is Mike Brown, and this is The Art of Letting Go. Peace.